Η μελωδία της ψυχής μας. Κόσμος FM 91,5.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Grigoris coming.
Station www. New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Detroit, San Francisco. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Janetto speaking. Today, me produce to you important stuff. The tenor and the other punch. They're going to see the Greek song. His name is "Δεν με ξέρεις, δεν σε ξέρω, αλλά σε καταλαβαίνω." That means, me don't know you, you don't know me, but I love you just as well. Τώρα, φίλοι μου, αυτή τη μουσική σας την προσφέρουνε ο Χασάπης της Νέας Υόρκης που πουλάει φρέσκα του πάγου, κεφαλάκια, ποδαράκια και πατσία από σαλιάκους. Από το μπακάλι του Ντετρόιτ που πουλάει φρέσκες σαρδέλες, κορδέλες και ποτήρια. Από το μανάβι του Μπόστο, Πιτσιβούργο και Κλίβελα που πουλάει μαρούλια με τη ρίγανη. Από το καφενείο του Χολ στην Μπουλεβάρη του Σικάγου που πιάνει καφέδες με καφέ και ζάχαρη. Που έχει τράπουλες για πρέπα, να γελάει δάκια που δεν σβήνουν ποτέ και κουμπούρες του 21 για προφύλαξη και για την ησυχία των πελατών του. Και το τελευταίο από το ψωμά του Σαν Φραντζίσκο που πουλάει ψωμία φρέσκα της ώρας. Ιμπορτάτε από την Κίνα. Λοιπόν, μουζίσιας, έτοιμοι.
Γεια σας αγαπητοί ακροατές του Κόσμος FM, εδώ από το στούντιο του Δημήτρη και της Γεωργίας Καλοειδής στην Αστόρια. Είμαι ο Γρηγόρης Μανινάκης. Σήμερα είμαι εδώ για κάτι ιδιαίτερο για το Κόσμος FM. Συνήθως το πρόγραμμά μου, όπως ξέρετε, είναι κάθε Δευτέρα βράδυ. Αλλά σήμερα φιλοξενούμε εδώ έναν πολύ αξιόλογο επισκέπτη, τον κύριο Μελέτιο Πουλιόπουλο, ο οποίος είναι ιστορικός και, αν θέλετε, archivist, Mr. Pouliopoulos. Archivist στα ελληνικά, πώς θα το πούμε, αρχαιοφύλαξ.
Μπράβο.
Αρχαιοφύλαξ.
Αυτό είναι.
Και ερευνητής της ιστορίας της ελληνικής μουσικής στην Αμερική. Έτσι θα πάμε, θα απευθύνω κάποιες ερωτήσεις σε εσάς, κύριε Πουλιόπουλο, αλλά εσείς θα απαντάτε. Θα το κάνουμε στα αγγλικά και στα ελληνικά. Ο κύριος Πουλιόπουλος αισθάνεται καλύτερα και αισθάνεται ότι θα αποδώσει πιο ακριβώς αυτά που θέλει να μας πει για την ιστορία του ελληνικού τραγουδιού, και θα είμαστε κάπου ανάμεσα σε ελληνικά και σε αγγλικά, έτσι όπως προχωράμε στη συνέντευξη αυτή. Λοιπόν, κύριε Πουλιόπουλο, καταρχάς, the first thing I would like to ask you is just tell our audience a few things about yourself, about your activities, and then we'll get to the details of what you're doing with respect to the history of Greek music.
Okay, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. As you said, I'm a historian and archivist of Greek music. I do research. It's my life's mission. I was a DJ for over 30 years, an entertainment DJ, Greek DJ. And also I had a radio program in Boston for 5 years, a Greek radio program called For the Record. And it was the history of Greek music in America.
Okay, how you've done your research, and you have information, and you have both anecdotal and otherwise. But how long? What time period does your research cover as far as Greek music in America?
From primarily, I'm focused from the 1900s to 1960. So we'll say the 78 RPM discography, and in that period.
And more specifically, what was the focus of your research? What were you trying to learn or put in archives? What was the focus?
Well, it's the greatest challenge is in documenting the music. We have two challenges. One in finding the music, and then once a lot of the master recordings of the early recordings were destroyed. And so instead of those master tapes, we have records that are now, going to be the masters, but very little information as to who did the recordings, where they were done. You may be familiar with Dick Spotswood who had done a wonderful study on ethnic music on records, and it was all pre-World War II. That's probably the first big study that we have. And then, of course, there's some activities going on in Greece. Dionysios Maninakis has done a wonderful discography project. He produced a book and a CD-ROM program. So we build on what we have.
So the first recordings of Greek music recordings in America, how far do they go? What was the time-wise? What was the first recording that you have discovered in your research?
The first recordings were done in 1896.
In here, you mean New York?
Yes, in New York, actually. Yeah, they were done in 1896, and they were done on the Berlinger label. They were rubber discs, and there were 8 recordings that were done in 1896. After that, we had the cylinder recordings, and those went up to, we'll say, right up into the beginning of the teens, 1911. So
what kind of music? I'm just curious. What kind of music was recorded then?
The mixture of
was
music.
Was it original music? I mean, was it composed by Greek musicians here, or was it like a repetition or a re-recording of known songs? Or
It's an excellent question. A little bit of a combination of both. The first immigrants that came around the turn of the beginning
19th
of
to the 20th,
right,
okay.
you know,
late 19th, early 20th.
Exactly.
Century, yes.
You know, you always hear people say, "Gee, you know, my grandfather, he came over from Greece, he had nothing." And you know, it's just not true. You know, we had our traditions, and in the music tradition, a lot of it's an oral tradition. So the early immigrants that came over singing songs went to record them. And
were they creating songs at the time? I mean, do you find like I said, original songs?
Yes, yeah. There
Combination,
were
I suppose.
Yeah, I'd also like to mention, since this is a project that I have going on right now, which is very special. It's with Greek piano rolls from player pianos. Now, this is a phenomenon that didn't take place in Greece, but it was very much popular here, and it reached its peak in 1923. So the player pianos where you would pump with your feet and you'd have a paper roll. Those paper rolls represent some of the earliest and unique recordings that we have of Greek music. It's a very, very interesting study. And what I found is that some of the music came from sheet music from Greece, and they would produce these rolls. And some I just can't identify yet. You know, and
are there any names like that are associated with those early recordings?
Oh yeah.
There are.
Oh, definitely, yeah. In fact, the way the piano rolls were produced, you would sit at the piano and play, and it would punch out the roll. Or, in some cases, it was taken from sheet music. So, I have here. I'm holding up a catalog. You can see it. This is a catalog all in Greek. There was 11 pages. This is from 1923, all in Greek of piano rolls. There was a song in here that says, "For the Country." For the Country.
1923.
For 1923. And For the Country. So I couldn't find any record for the country. But what I did find from Greece was sheet music, Iati Patrida. And it was from 1902.
Is it's the same melody?
It is the same melody.
Do you have it here?
I do. I think I have that one. Yeah, it's very interesting. We'll play some of those.
Yeah, sure. I would like to. I would like to.
Very good.
Good. One more thing that I wanted to. Actually, are you going to find it? You're going to play it right now?
Well, I had a special song that I wanted to play because and it's not an early song, but it's a nice kind of song to. Sometimes they say you should start later and then go back in time.
Okay.
So
this from your archives.
Yes, yeah. This is from the archives. Okay, here we go.
Μπαρμπάουζο με να ζουν όλοι σαν με βλέπουν οι διαβόλοι. Βρε κοθόνια τι γελάτε, γιατί πίνω δε ρωτάτε. Βρε κοθόνια τι γελάτε, γιατί πίνω δε ρωτάτε. Ούζο φέρτε καράφακια, αχ, για να ξεχάσω πονούς, πίκρες και φαρμάκια. Μες στο ούζο να τα πήξω, όλα να τα λησμονήσω. Μες στο ούζο να τα πήξω, όλα να τα λησμονήσω.
Well, what a great song.
Is it too early for Ouzo?
I tell you, this is the first time I hear the song, okay, and I love it. Although, you know, we've talked about it before the show. We did this with the Cafe Aman America. We did this research from Dino Papas, and we did all these recordings. But this is the first. I didn't hear the song before. I can tell you right now that if we heard it, we would have included it.
Oh, really? Really?
CD for sure.
Glad, yeah.
But here's what I want to say. I love the voice of the singer, and I understand we don't even know who that person is.
Well,
great singer, though.
It's a great singer. Actually, I may have it here. I'm just trying to access my notes on it. But I'll tell you that it was recorded on Colonial Records. And you know of Titos Dimitriadis?
Yes, Titos Dimitriadis.
Okay. And he had recorded extensively here. And he had a record label, Colonial Records. And this is one of the first LPs that they took. Recorded.
Maybe it's Dimitriadis himself. Maybe
it could be,
because he was a singer too. He was an actor-singer, as I
yes. Oh yeah,
right?
and he recorded under 3 different names.
Yeah. He was changing his voice too. He was making different impersonations on air. Actually,
Mr.
the introductory
Zanatos.
part that we put is his voice there.
That's right.
Yeah. But so this was recorded in New York. It's an American recording.
It was an American recording. It never made it to CD. And the reason that I brought it up is that you asked me a question earlier, and I don't think I answered it fully. You said, what was the music? What was the mix of music? In the early days, there was folk music, and we had music from Asia Minor. There were marching songs. There were some religious songs. There were songs. The songs from Asia Minor are ringing out to people lately, and the rebirth of Rebetika and the interest in Rebetika. So I thought I would play that.
Good.
Yeah.
The thing that surprised me actually from this song as well, 2 things I want to say. One thing, that the recording it's an original recording, right?
Yes.
But it's very good quality. Usually, when you hear those old recordings, they don't sound that good. This sounded, unless you have
Yeah.
some.
Well, there are probably people that do it better than I do in terms of
But
digitizing and
it's a
restoring.
very good, very clean, very clean recording.
Thank you.
And the other observation that I have, very interesting. I'm very happy you're here because I'm going to learn a lot of things, and I hope our audience will as well. But is that the melody reminded me of different tunes that I know. It's like, it seems like there was, there was this, we listen to songs and we compose songs, and we always somehow go back and pick some parts of it that sound like something. Like, for example, I heard like a little bit of a melody. It sounded like a little bit in that recording. Okay,
That's right.
Let's
Thank
move on
you.
now.
Okay, so we were talking about the piano rolls and how interesting that study is. And it's so exciting because, what I found out was the major manufacturer of the piano rolls was a company out of Buffalo, New York, QRS. They're still in business 100 years later. And when I went there, I found out that they had thrown out their masters. They destroyed the masters. So, and there were word rolls as well. So sometimes the piano rolls would play and there would be, in Greek, the words would go. It's probably the first form of karaoke. I don't know. You'd sit around the piano and sing. But it's funny when you just mentioned Mandalena, because one of the piano rolls I had trouble with. I couldn't figure it out. And I went to the musicians that I know, the ones that are from Greece, and say, what do you think this is? Our friend Cosma said, I think it's Mandalena. I'd like to play that for you if I could.
Okay, sure.
And the title, by the way, and the titles are sometimes, they're not exactly what they were in Greece.
Originally, right?
Originally. They don't match what's on record. This was never released on a record
Is
here.
there a title to it?
Alem Dag Zembekiko.
Aredam?
Alem Dag.
Alem Dag Zembekiko. What is Alem Dag?
Alem Dag is a Turkish word. I think it's for a place that was from Asia Minor. As it turned out, the person who made this roll was Cavadillas.
In America?
Here in New York, yes.
In New York?
Yeah.
Cavadillas.
Cavadillas, Lucianos Cavadillas was a piano player. He had an orchestra. He had written the theme for the Ahepa. In 1927, he recorded that.
So this song, we're talking about what time period?
This song is pre the 1923 catalog.
Pre 1923.
It's not even listed in this. So this is, if you hear it now, I think you might hear a little mandolina. That's what we thought at first.
All right.
So here it is. This is a player piano roll QRS F9170.
Very interesting. Again, my impression that very clean recording for a song, for an original song, so old.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Yeah, so I player pianos. The way that these piano rolls came about, by the way, there was a friend of mine, Chris Pandazelos, who's a luthier in Boston. He called me up one day and he says, hey, someone just walked into my store with piano rolls. I said, piano rolls? Player pianos? He says, yeah. He goes, get this, they're Greek. I said, oh. He says, do you know anything about them? No, I don't know. And now here I am a few years later. So I couldn't find a player piano anywhere, and I went up to see a fellow, Bob Berkman is his name, and we recorded these rolls. 42 rolls were recorded over 3 days, and this is a study I'm doing for a book that's going to be coming out on Greek music in America.
Okay, I think that leads me to the question that came up in my mind as we were talking. Now, first of all, how long have you started doing this? Collecting and researching and going around. And then I have follow-up questions.
Well, I think my sisters would argue since I was a kid, because I'm pulling out recordings. When I was a kid, we had these little reel-to-reel decks.
So that was like a hobby, sort of.
I have recordings of my Ya and Papu singing in 1953. And these were the songs that went in my head. This is how I got started, because we had a lot of music in the house. And I wanted to find the songs. I wanted to know about them. And there's still songs that they sang that I can't locate anywhere in any discography, or in any sheet music or in any books. So, but we were talking about this sort of thing, how times have changed. When we were growing up, there was one radio in the house, maybe one phonograph. Everyone listened to the same thing. And now
everybody's in their own headphones.
They're in their own headphones. They're doing their own dance, and so the experience of how we listen to music is changed. And I go back to my childhood, and I have these songs in my head, and I just love it when sometimes my phone rings and I pick it up and someone starts singing. What's that? You tell me. Oh, okay. We take it from there.
Okay, follow up. Now, so you've been doing this since you were a kid, sort of. But in order to collect all this material and go through it and put it in archives or whatever.
Okay, so that sort of stuff.
You've traveled.
I have traveled.
And I was curious whether there was, what areas in the United States did you find most of this material or a lot of this material?
I'm very blessed. I'm very, very fortunate for a number of reasons. I have a lot of people who have given me their collections. Some of them are very, very large. Some were documented and some were not. In other words, there were records in someone's basement. Other people took time and they documented it what they could. And they didn't have a place to put them. Where do you do with all of these things? Not just records, by the way, but tapes, reel-to-reel tapes. We have some live recordings that haven't been released. We could probably play some of those too as examples. But it's a problem. It's a very big problem here in the U.S. We are not preserving. We're in a throwaway culture.
Well, that's my next question. You have like a mission or a focus in doing this. What is your primary goal when you're doing all this great work?
My life's mission right now is to launch a nonprofit to preserve and document Greek music. And I think it needs to be a living archive and something that people can go to and draw off of.
The Greek American, the history of ourselves, of Greek Americans.
It's so important.
Through music,
the first recordings were done here in the U.S., not in Greece. And in fact, in Greece, the recording industry started in the mid-1920s, around 1925. And then
it stopped.
And then it stopped at World War II. The Germans closed the studios. And so recordings were happening in the exoteriko. They, from 1900 to 1910, there were over 1,900 recordings, according to Sam Chianis, our friend, ethnomusicologist.
Up in Binghamton.
Unbelievable man, just so knowledgeable. So I'm blessed from the collections that have been given to me and trusted in me. And I'm also blessed from the researchers, the ethnomusicologists, the folklorists, the musicians. that have told me their stories, and I've read their research.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to continue in the vein.
Yeah, I would guess that that in order to collect this material, some of it you have to pay for it. I would assume.
Yes, it's a very very bad habit, and it's hard to shake. But I do have to pay, but yet and still, as we speak right now, there are some very massive collections that are out there that I just can't afford. There's one man.
Are you talking about Detroit?
I'm talking, no, not right now in Detroit. Dino's collection, you know what happened to that.
Yeah.
It was split. Most of it went to Greece, and the other part of it...
Oh, he did go to Greece with Dino Pappas' collection from Detroit. That's what we're talking about, yeah.
That's
where we got Greece. The songs for Café Aman, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dino was like that. Everyone went to him. He helped people.
Yeah, he offered to help because he didn't know what to do with it. He thought if he, if he left his life, that all these things will go... lost, and fortunately some of it was preserved, thanks to you too.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the saddest part of Dino's story to me, the part that really is heart-wrenching, is that all his notes have been thrown out. So when I say that, we do have some of his works that have been deposited. He actually did a wonderful thing on Titos Dimitriadis. He and Andy Dellas had done the Titos Dimitriadis discography. He translated all the songs, and he gave you his interpretation, told you what he knew of the history. But that was never published into a book. They had intended on publishing it, and it's now sitting in an archive, the Helen Rees archives.
Just for our audience, those who don't know what Dino Pappas was, ο Dinos Pappas he was a retired police officer who lived in Detroit, and he was like his hobby. He was collecting all these old recordings, Greek-American recordings, and eventually he ended up with thousands of those, and at some point he decided to share them. Then I believe he passed away, and then his sons or his family you got through to them, and you got some of them.
I didn't get any of Dino's collection.
You didn't get any of Dino's?
No,
Oh, you didn't.
A friend of mine bought the remainder of the collection. A friend of mine has in his private, but he's in the same situation. Here's a man that's in his mid-70s, and his son doesn't want the records. His wife really doesn't know what he spends in his habits, and so and there's this fellow that has been buying up record stores since 1949. He brought groups over from Greece. I'm talking about mandolinata bands, folk troops, and things like that. He has a huge warehouse. He's in his 80s. I went to see him. He's very private.
Where does he live now?
He lives, I can't tell you to give you that much information about it, but he is in California.
Okay.
And a friend of mine told me about him a few years ago. He said, he won't talk to you. Good luck. Good luck. He's very excited. We had a great time. I spent a couple of days on my hands and knees. I spent about $400, and I said to him, what are you going to do with all of this? He says, well, do you know any rich Greek people? And I said, no, I don't. But he says, well, I'd like to kind of sell it because my daughter doesn't. This was a few years ago. So I talked to him about the nonprofit. And I said, if you sell these things, they're going to end up in people's homes, and then they're going to be rotting in the basements, and the kids are going to throw them out. Then things out on it, It's sad. It really is. And so this is how my life goes. The phone rings, and someone says, do you have a reel-to-reel deck? And this was about 6-7 years ago. And I said, well, I do, but it's broken. He says, why? He says, wait a minute. He says, I've got something for you. He sent me a live recording of the Trio Bel Canto with Nico Grigoris from 1963. And it was crystal clear, and it was the whole concert. And I called him up, and I said, where did you get this? He goes, ha, I got more. Then he sent me a recording of Meletios in Merilinda from 1965, all documented, unbelievable quality. He says, how can I make money at this? I said, you want to hold on? I'm going to call Greece. I'll get you $10,000 right now. $10,000 I'll get you. It'll go right into your account before I hang up the phone. Oh, that sounds pretty good. And I says, well, yeah, but no one's ever going to hear it again, ever. It's going to go into someone's archive, and that's it. Someone's going to be having an uzo in their home with their buddies, and then, it'll get thrown out. So I talked to him about the idea of this nonprofit, and this is what I do. I try to tell, I'm not profit motivated. I think we have a very, very rich musical heritage, and there's so much music that was created here, that was recorded here, that was performed here, not just in the discography, the 78 discography, but in live recordings. And all the ephemera, all the printed materials, we're looking at sheet music from 1902. This happens to be from Greece. But, these kinds of things are so valuable, and people are throwing them out. So I'm hoping to get support for my ideas, which have been in development
and
for a long time.
eventually a book.
The book is coming. We are with.
When you have the book, you're going to come here again, and we're going to talk about it.
Oh, thank you. I'm just a
telling you right
contributor.
now.
I'm just a contributor, but I'm so excited. It's we did an exhibit on Greek music in America in Florida last year with Steve Frangos, who's been writing for over 35 years. Excellent person. He's been interviewing. He's been researching music and writing about it, and we had all of his articles, all of his knowledge. Tina Bukovalis, who's the folklorist of Toppan Springs, who went for the funding and had the idea and brought us together, kept us in the reins, and we did this project. And then we had people like Jim Stoynoff and Sam and Leonidas Zafiridis, who was a bouzouki player. We had them review what we did, just to make sure, and then we put together an exhibit.
Okay. Do you have a song that we can play?
Yeah,
to
let's
just
play
break
a
the
song. Okay.
conversation a little bit.
Oh, is it? I can play whatever I want now.
Whatever you want.
Okay,
You're the music selector today.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I usually when I'm on the radio, we talked about the live recordings. Is it okay to play something from the Hyoti recordings? And
Yes,
because I think there's something.
Of course. This, by the way, this is. I just want the audience to know. This is all from your archives. Everything that we play.
Right. Yes.
Go ahead.
And this is not released, so maybe at some point we have to talk over this. But I'd like to play it out, and it's an interesting thing. When Hyoti and Marilinda came here to the U.S., they didn't want to play the motika. Everywhere that they went, people were asking for the motika.
Believe it or not, I've been in some of the places they played.
Have you really?
Oh, yes. I was part of the audience.
Have you really?
Yes.
Okay.
That was early 1960s.
Oh, my word.
Maybe 1964, maybe. Or 63. That's where I went to see them.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So here it is. This is live from Boston in 1965. It was Manolis Chiotis and Marilinda.
Yeah.
And, we were fortunate to have
live recording, right?
Live recording,
okay, let's hear it.
Here we go.
I can tell, because like you say, this sounds like Δημοτικό, doesn't sound like a classical Hyoti song, but I can tell what the experience was, because we have the same experience today when we have a band and we go play somewhere. Somebody comes and say, hey, how about this? Most likely they were there and somebody once said, hey, how about playing, a tsamiko or a sirto? So he says, okay, what are we going to do? we'll do this, and that's what they did. But I have a personal question to ask you. I mean, personally, this is something that I thought was a fact, but maybe you can clarify it or not verify it or not. I have read and I thought I knew, that the bouzouki was first recorded in the United States, and that was sometimes in the mid-1930s. And you have some different opinion, or you have found out something different about that?
Well, you must be referring to Jack Gregory's.
Yes, that's what I'm referring to. Exactly.
Yeah, in 1932 here in New York. And it's true, for the longest time, that's what we thought. But we did find recordings that were much earlier than that were made here with
bouzouki recordings.
Yeah, I tell you, I will send you the information and perhaps the recording for one of your programs.
Okay,
but
great.
it's wonderful, and this is why we have to keep the research going. We also need credible sources of information. I saw a sign that said library because everything's not on the internet, and it's true that we have to. Make sure that we have good sources of information and that we keep it fresh.
We have a note here from a member of our audience, but I don't know exactly what our friend John Turnus wants to say. He says, National Record Shop. He says that today it's like the show is like National Record Shop.
It's a national.
Somebody from the audience says that the kind of discussion we have, it is like we have a show, National Record Shop Saturday.
Oh, really? Is that?
Thank you, John. Anyway, we have just about maybe 3-4 minutes, and I said at the beginning, Melete, allow me to call you by your first name, that the kind of the information that you have, the kind of discussion, the interesting discussion that we're having about this history of Greek music will probably take a series of interviews in order to cover it thoroughly. So I really feel kind of bad that we don't have, as much time as we would need to do this. But I tell you, I know, and I promise myself, and I promise to you that you'll be back here as as time goes, because I know you're going to be working, with your archives. You're going to be developing. The book is coming out, and your non-profit. So I know we're going to have a chance to talk again. But in conclusion, just maybe you can just summarize, your immediate and long-term goals with what you have.
Okay, the goal continues to be for us to launch a non-profit to preserve this music. I think people. In my heart, if I see that I can increase awareness by these radio programs and lectures, it's a wonderful thing. We have.
And if someone wants to get in touch with you, and say a community here in California, anywhere in the United States, they want to have a presentation, are you available to do
absolutely,
that?
Absolutely.
So how will they contact you?
The best way, I can leave my address as Meletios, my email address, meletios@GreekCulturalResources.org. Okay. Or they can call me at 603-772-2223. And I think they could probably ask you, and you're going to be able to tell them too.
If they ask me, I will make sure that I'll get in contact with you. But I interrupted you because I wanted to read the message from our friend here. Yes. It didn't register with me about the bouzouki recording. When was the first bouzouki recording then eventually? It was not 1932, it was way before.
It was way before, and I'm sorry that I don't have the date in my head right now, but it was somewhere about 10 years prior in my memory. And it was just.
Was it in New York or?
It was a recording from New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I think we're gonna have to end the show.
Okay.
I want to thank you very much. I've learned and I've enjoyed talking to you. I know our audience enjoyed the show as well. But and let's promise you and the audience that you'll be back, because this is a very interesting topic, and it reflects and it refers to the history of us Greek Americans, and we strongly as a station here, we believe in that. Personally, I believe in that as well. And I think music is a great catalyst, a great means to see some of the aspects of our Greek American history in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all your good work.
Okay, thank you for listening. Σας ευχαριστούμε. Σε λίγο μαζί σας ο Περικλής Κανάρης μέχρι τις 3:30 για ένα ακόμη μια ενδιαφέρουσα κουβέντα, μια ενδιαφέρουσα συνέντευξη. Σας ευχαριστούμε. Να είστε καλά.
Κόσμος FM 91,5. Ακούγεται ακόμη και όταν δεν ακούγεται.
Το πρόγραμμα που μόλις ακούσατε σας το προσέφεραν τα μέλη του Κόσμος FM καθώς και εταιρείες. Alma Bank. Με αξιοπιστία, έμπνευση και όραμα, η Alma Bank παρέχει λύσεις και σύγχρονα προϊόντα για τις τραπεζικές σας ανάγκες. Επενδύοντας στη νέα τεχνολογία, στην κοινωνική δράση και στο υψηλό επίπεδο τραπεζικών υπηρεσιών, με ισχυρή παρουσία στο Queens, στο Brooklyn, στο Manhattan, στο Bronx, στο Tenafly, στο Fort Lee, στο Clifton και σύντομα στο Port Washington, Alma Bank. 718-267-2562 και στο διαδίκτυο almabank.com. Μέλος FDIC.
Crown Peters, στην Αστόρια και στο Brooklyn, καθιερώθηκε για την προσωπική φροντίδα των χιλιάδων πελατών του. Για καλό ταξίδι στην Ελλάδα, Κύπρο και όλο τον κόσμο. Crown Peters, ποιότητα, συνέπεια και επαγγελματικότητα. 718-932-7800.
United Brothers Fruit Markets. Για 40 χρόνια στην Αστόρια με φρούτα και λαχανικά. Ανοιχτά 7 μέρες την εβδομάδα, 24 ώρες το 24ωρο. United Brothers Fruit Markets. 30 Avenue και 33 Street. Αστόρια.